acquired by Hydro-Québec. But most importantly for us, it's the hypothesis. And the hypotheses are quite clear. I just took what was in MOU 1 and I said it will apply in MOU 2, unless said differently by the government. So essentially, we will operate Beldoon and Coulson Cove still at the direction and the benefit of Hydro-Québec without, on a cost recovery basis, so without making money out of doing that. Essentially, Hydro-Québec will control Beldoon and Coulson Cove in terms of the operation and in terms of the shutting down. That's the message here. Then, for the assets not acquired, we'll need to shut down Courtney Bay, Dalhousie, Grand Lake. I think they forgot Grand Manan in the first deal. Like they forgot Edmundston, St. John, and Perth Andover, and the Aboriginal communities. Essentially, we will need to decommission that, and Hydro-Québec is telling us that we need to do it now. So that's an important concept also. I think we all agree that we need to phase out fossil fuel plants. But I think it has to be done over a long-term strategy. I think we need to develop your energy sector with a strategy that considers that we need to phase out fossil fuel plants. But we do it so that it's economically benefit, but also socially, with social equity in mind. Diversifying the economy of the regions where there's those plants to make sure that people still have jobs when the plants close down. Diversifying the plant also in terms of the energy sector. We've got huge quantity of biomass in New Brunswick. Why shouldn't we transform Dalhousie to burn biomass? Have we looked at those options? I'm not sure we have looked at that. The supply of electricity, so we'll have Hydro-Québec will supply a pool of 14 terawatt-hour of electricity at perpetuity. And that's a very scary line. Forever. So we're engaging in a contract forever, a contract that's being negotiated in crisis management mode, in full secrecy. It's scary. So we'll pay for the first 5 years. The price will be supplied at 7.35 cents per kilowatt hour. Afterwards, it's going to be adjusted according to the New Brunswick Consumer Price Index. That's what they told us in MOU 1. But as we know, there was all sorts of costs tied to that. Will there be other costs tied to that? We don't know. The Heritage Pool supply will be split at 4.5 terawatt hour for the large customers, large industry, and the rest for the residential, commercial, and wholesale customers. And all consumption beyond the Heritage Pool will be met through market conditions. So the rates for the first 5 years for the 41 large customers, at closing of the deal, the rates will be equivalent to Hydro-Québec. That's very good for those 41 customers. That's undeniable. And then at the anniversary, the first, second, third, and fourth anniversary of the deal, the rates for the large industry will increase at the same level as Hydro-Québec. Equivalent rates in Quebec. Now the risk here is that there's an important debate right now in Quebec that the electricity rates are too low, both for residentials and mostly industrial rates, because they've been maintained very low for historical reason, and they have had access to low-cost power. But then there's no innovation happening in the energy sector, no innovation in industries to reduce the consumption of energy. So there's an important debate that the rates should increase, and increase a lot. So there's a big probability, since our rate after the 6th year the rates will be tied to the rates of the large industry of Hydro-Québec, that we'll lose all this benefit that we're having of the rate reduction for the large industry. For the customers, so they're the 376,923. The rest of us will have the rates frozen for 5 years. So important, I said it twice. at the levels currently in effect in New Brunswick. But then there's going to be the deferral cost of Port Cupro will be paid starting in the 6th year plus interest. So it's a pseudo rate freeze. We're just not paying costs that's going to be factored in the rates in the 6th year. So in terms of annual revenue, the first year Hydro-Québec will make $1 billion of revenues with the Heritage Pool. And you can escalate that at CPI after the 5th year, 1.8, and you can go up to near 200 from now. They'll make $32 billion out of selling us electricity, and you can go to 1,000 years if you want. It's at perpetuity. So these costs will be structured in the electricity rates in New Brunswick, because the rates will have to be determined by the Energy Utilities Board. But they'll have no choice than to accept those rates. It's in the contract. Whatever the cost of generating that electricity for Hydro-Quebec. So a few thoughts in terms of the supply of electricity. For the large industries, we will buy electricity from Hydro-Quebec at 7.35 cents per kilowatt hour. And we'll sell it at 5.3 to the large industry. So 4.5 terawatt hour will cost us $331 million. So that's, and the power will pay for that. And the revenues from the large industry will be $239 million. So there's a deficit of $92 million, plus the transmission and distribution costs. That's not factored in those numbers. So essentially, if we only take the $92 million, so essentially, it's a subsidy of $245 annual subsidy from every residential, commercial, and wholesale customers in New Brunswick to the large industries. So the large industries employs roughly 35,000 people, and this is a number coming from the New Brunswick Business Council. So essentially, this rate reduction for the large industry corresponds to $2,629 per employee of large industries. Who's paying for that? It's the residential and commercial and wholesale customers. One of the most vocal CEO in the province is Peter Gordon, the CEO of Fraser Papers in Edmundston, my hometown. And yes, Fraser Paper needs to continue to operate. I played hockey in the yard of Fraser Papers. The good old days when we played with a real hat on. Essentially, this CEO is coming out saying that it's very important that this deal goes on because they will save $6 million per year in their electricity rates. Well, for 375 employees, that's a subsidy, an annual subsidy of $16,000 per employee every year. That's going to be paid by the residential, commercial, and wholesale customers. Brookfield Asset Fraser is a bankruptcy restructuring right now. And they need to prove that they can reduce their costs. So this electricity deal is very important for them to be able to be protected, not going to bankruptcy. If they don't go to bankruptcy, Brookfield Asset Management will own 51% of Fraser Papers. Good New Brunswickers on the board of Brookfield Asset Management, Frank McKinnon. So this being said, I think it's important that we need to recognize that large industry play an important role economically and socially in the province of New Brunswick. But I think it would be a lot more efficient if we would have a industry or sector-specific programs for large industry. Right now, whatever the sector you are in, you benefit from lower rates. Could be more efficient to have specific industry sector programs to make sure that these companies are successful for the long term. So my time is going, so I'll try to accelerate. So essentially, I presume that all the costs that were in MOU1 will still be in MOU2. That will be factored in our rates after the 6th year. Employees, essentially employees will go to Hydro or for the assets acquired by Hydro-Quebec, they will get the employees, but most important is the LEPRO one is that the employees will only become employees of Hydro-Quebec if the deal goes on. And there's issues of pension plan. Then I presume that the other matters of MOU1 that Hydro-Quebec would have Crown Corporation status, therefore not paying income tax on their revenues because they'll own assets here in New Brunswick. There'll be a company here in New Brunswick. They'll have to have a subsidy here in New Brunswick. Will they still have a Crown Corporation status? This is not clear. So, in Deal 1, the message and the summary of the government of New Brunswick were not the same as the detail provided by MOU1. MOU1 provided a lot more detail to allow us to understand the deal. So in the absence of the details, it is difficult to make an objective evaluation of Deal 2. So based on the hypothesis that I've made, essentially that the relevant details of MOU1 apply to the Deal 2, I think it still appears that Deal 2 is still more favorable to Hydro-Quebec than it is for the country. I still feel that we're getting a lot for what we're getting in this deal.